Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson is off to a great start this season. His efficiency is off the charts. He's the early favorite for NFL MVP, yet he has never received an MVP vote in his now 9 years in the league. Jarett Sims of Turn 2 Equity Partners is here to help us sort this out a little bit. Turn 2 Equity enables pro athletes to leverage their on-field success. And Jarett, what does Russell Wilson have to do to grow his brand and become more marketable?
Well, I think working with athletes and making sure that they leverage their influence properly, diversity is important in terms of being in different spheres. And Russell is getting to a territory now where he's being talked about all over sports TV, sports radio, nationally, ESPN. And I'm just seeing the fact that brands can ride this wave with him right now. And I think he's deserved it for so long. But being involved in different things as he's been doing in terms of tech investing, involved also, in giving back to the community as he's done. Russell's a man of faith, and he's able to articulate that through his game. And so, he's so many things, great spokesperson, great person. And obviously as an athlete, right now he's playing out of his mind. And so I think he just has to keep doing what he's doing. And, he was in Entourage, the movie. I think we all remember that, or maybe some people want to forget it. I don't know if you think it was as good as the show, Paul, but I think, that sort of opportunity is right there for him, and in many different ways.
So not only with Russell, but for a lot of star athletes, it's about doing things off the field and getting involved in other things to grow your brand.
Absolutely. So he's involved in an effort to bring a team to Portland here on the baseball side. He's involved in multiple other, sports. And I think that, his name keeps popping up in a lot of different areas as I see it. I think one of the unique things is he does carry so much respect amongst his peers in football, and other sports, baseball, basketball. And I think it's getting to the point where I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman, as Jay-Z said. Russell is a business, and I think we should all be high on his stock right now.
How important is it because we hear that even at the low end here in the B-list TV sports and newscasting and things like that, every one of us represents ourselves as a brand. So you don't want to say anything stupid, do anything stupid to tarnish your brand. And how important is that when you get to the level that Russell's at, the Mike Trouts and those kind of athletes? How important is it to protect the brand?
I think authenticity kind of trumps everything. And, Russell's authentic. I believe he does have a quality to him like Derek Jeter. I grew up on the East Coast, and I think that, he doesn't step in it or create unforced errors in terms of, speaking on behalf of the team or, on his own views. And I think you can, in a way, makes it such that you may not say something incendiary, but you also don't show as much personality. So I think Russell does a good job of walking sort of that fine line. And I think, it would be interesting, to really have him open up even more because I know he's somebody with a, point of view on a lot of different subjects. And I think he could even take it further in terms of how forcefully he sort of speaks and represents his viewpoint.
LeBron James gets a lot of credit for that, for coming out on social issues and making a statement. How important is it for these guys to kind of take steps into that area?
Well, 2020 is a year where I think we would all like to forget about a lot in terms of in football, the year of Russell Wilson. I think now is the perfect opportunity because no one's going to be able to say, well, kind of what you've heard in terms of LeBron shut up and dribble. You won't hear that with regard to Russell playing at this level. And I think, ultimately, global impact is more important now than when you think about MJ and when he played and he was reticent to speak out when he in private was doing a lot for the community. I think that just where we are in this day and age and LeBron has been a trendsetter, and a lot of athletes owe the ability to speak out to LeBron and a few others. And so I think that it's something that we'll see Russell do more and more.
Do you think that there's truth to, if Russell Wilson played for the Yankees, or if Mike Trout played for the Yankees, played in these bigger markets, that they would be more marketable?
That's a great question. So much involves what sport you're playing. And so if you look at the Phillies in baseball, you look at Mike Trout playing in Anaheim, those guys can't put the team on their back and bring them to a championship just because of the nature of the game. Whereas Russell, we were kind of talking before, and just imagine if you put Mitch Trubisky in Russell's seat and watched him run that team, it'd be a lot different result these past number of years. And so I don't know that the sort of major market side of things matters as much as folks say, because Russell's right there 1 and 2 with Patrick Mahomes as most marketable players in football. And, Kansas City is certainly not, like a New York or Los Angeles in terms of being a major market. And so being the story is driven a lot, at least in football, by your numbers. And that's kind of across the board. But winning, and Russell has a child named Win. So he's just got that winning way. He walks different. He walks differently. And I think marketability is as much about the person and their numbers more than the market they play in.
Take someone like Dak Prescott. Before his whole contract negotiation, they were saying that he makes, I don't know how many national ads Dak Prescott has as the Cowboys quarterback, America's team. So it would seem that if Russell Wilson was the quarterback of the Cowboys, he would have 15 national ads. I think the only thing I see Russell on is Alaska Airlines. It doesn't seem like he has that national pull.
Well, I think he's now part of one of the top few power couples where you got Jay-Z and Beyonce. You've got Gabrielle Union, Dwayne Wade. Russell Wilson with Ciara is right there. I think that'll start to change. I think Campbell's Soup, or there's a number of brands that would be really wise to buy even while Russell's high right now. And so I think you do make a good point as far as the Cowboys being so-called America's team. I hope that the Seahawks go get them upcoming in this game. And I'm an Eagles fan too. So for dual reasons, an Eagles and a Seahawks fan, I hope that happens. But I think you make a great point. And there's a cachet that few teams do have as far as the Yankees, the Cowboys. But ultimately, Russell will be right there in the conversation.
Who's responsible for it? I mean, on the one hand, should the NFL market their players better? Do they do a good job of marketing their players?
The NFL is a machine. NFL does a tremendous job marketing its players. I think that they're kind of a guiding light for other sports, and baseball would do well to borrow a page from their book. I think that ultimately each player and all of us as people, I have a background in influencer marketing before I helped athletes leverage their influence and got into the lane that I'm in now. And I'd say that it's all about your overall reach and who you influence is, your engagement level. So Russell has a lot of crossover appeal in different communities. And I think that ultimately you have to see each player in the different spheres that they're comfortable sort of representing and speaking out on. And so I think that'd be something that Russell can speak out more ardently and aggressively, and it might do well to see him become more of a national voice.
That's interesting. That's a good point. I mean, when I look at some of these guys, I would imagine that some of these superstars like Russell, maybe I say that he only has Alaska out here, and it seems like that's his big thing. But maybe some of these guys just want to do their talking on the field and live their lives privately and not be that big marketable star.
Well, I think we're all human. I know we mentioned Mahomes before. One of his passions is shoes, and so he just built a shoe closet with hundreds of shoes in it, hundreds of kicks. So I don't know. It's possible that different athletes, they just don't want to maybe share that part of their personality or keep something to themselves, and can totally respect that. And at the end of the day, I think that it's all about winning on the field, and the rest kind of takes care of itself. And it depends also making sure you have a great team around you, as Russell certainly does, based on some of the different business endeavors that he's gotten involved in.
Have you worked with being a young guy? How much of a chance have you had to work with athletes? And you talk about some of the things that you've done in the past and are currently doing, helping athletes and as far as the influencing way. Have you had a chance to work with some of those stars and some of the things that they're doing? Is there anything out there that's new?
Yeah, so I've come from a world of big data and influencer marketing. Right now, Turn 2 Equity Partners, my team, players, got a great leadership team, and Jason Hayward from the Cubs is one of our investors. We've got a number of other guys who've joined up and partnered with us to invest and really own a piece of the game. And so that's what I've seen in my career is that players go day by day and have to focus on what they do on the field, on the court, et cetera, in order to be successful. But there's an entire industry around them in terms of technology, in terms of the media side of it, that they don't often get to enjoy the fruits of their labor in those ways in terms of building equity in their own house or the leagues, the unions, et cetera. And I think that that's one of the things that we're seeing change right now in the current climate, where players are taking more ownership. And that's through investing capital. But the way of endorsing, I think, is going bye-bye for the most part as these athletes, step up and own the game.
That's interesting. So, we are talking about, athletes making endorsements, maybe getting known nationally for some of these products. But from the way I understand and the way you're talking, there's a trend going the other way that we see it in the media, because some of these athletes will make their own announcement on social, or they'll talk only to The Athletic, or they'll do their point of view where they don't, so the words don't get mixed up and convoluted, and they're getting their message across because you're hearing them say it without pulling little sound bites and little quotes to take it out of context. So not only are they trying to control what they put out there in the media, but now you're saying that, if I understand you correctly, that a lot of guys are being choosy about not endorsing things, maybe diving in other ways instead of endorsing products.
Yeah, I believe that Kobe with Body Armor was given a significant stake in that business and actually kept it quiet, and that ended up being worth more than $100 million. But it allowed that company to go ahead and recruit other players to say, look who we've got involved. This is real. And so we're seeing players. Again, it's not an athlete, but 50 Cent helped vitamin water sell for $2 billion to Coca-Cola. And so when I say owning a piece of the game, I think, there's biomechanical motion analysis companies that help track data and help prevent injury for players. There's, vision companies, there's neurocognition, and each of these things help players be at their best. And what we're seeing on the performance side is players take an ownership stake in those things, and whether publicly or not, that's something that's exciting. Same thing as on the media side. Where folks are getting involved, players are getting involved heavily, and it's not just using their influence and their voice publicly in front of the camera, but behind the camera, they're owning a piece of the company in a way that we didn't see happen, decades ago.
So, is there another sample? I mean, I like the Kobe example. I like the 50 Cent example. Is there another one that comes to mind for you as you continue to lay it out, where athletes have really helped bring a brand out and make it so much more worthwhile?
Well, certainly LeBron, what he's doing with Uninterrupted is really interesting, and he's paved the way for so many. It's something that they're creating a lot of content, and that's something that, again, in 2020, the pandemic that we're in, we're all consuming more content than ever before. But I think some of the best examples you could look to what, again, Jason Hayward, again, I mentioned before, is with my company, Turn 2 Equity Partners, and we're really proud to have him. Dusty Baker. So it's not just, sort of players currently in the game, but I think Dusty's been amazing in terms of the influence that he carries and others that he's brought in into the sphere to really help players see a light as far as being able to do well for their families and generations to come. And, I'm excited about being part of that.
Just a couple more questions for you. How much does it help that Dusty Baker's back in the game? I think he's in his 70s now. And when you talk about players getting on board, Russell got on board with the Sounders, so he's got part ownership there. You talked about Portland. He's got a stake in a possible MLB team in Portland. So, that obviously is going to help attract names and attract investors, but does it help more when you have active athletes, and in Dusty's case, an active manager? Does that help bring in more than, say, a guy that's sitting on the bench and retired?
Well, you got to have the cards, right? You got to have the hold cards. You got to have revenue, and you got to have a promising, enterprise. So you have to have the right stuff. But ultimately, when you can wrap what your business does around someone with as much integrity as a Dusty Baker or Russell Wilson, that goes, it speaks volumes, and, allows you to accelerate the path, towards success, get there a lot faster because of that.
Okay. This is unrelated to anything we've talked about, but I got to ask you this one question, because I talked to your dad, who was the voice of the Mariners out here in Seattle, and a longtime voice. And we talked about his highs and lows in the broadcast booth. And he said one of his highs was calling Nelson Cruz's game-winning home run, I believe. And he talked about his son in the booth. And I'm not sure, Jarett, if that was you. So I'm just kind of throwing it out there. But he went bananas when Cruz hit this home run. Were you in the booth that day when he did?
That was my brother Jordan, but I can tell you one of my high points personally in terms of with my dad in general. My dad gets to the ballpark so early to prepare. He just works so hard. So it's provided an amazing example for me in everything that I do. And I've been trying to convince him to go down to the field forever. And after, I think it was 10 years it took to finally get down there and have a catch. So I had a field of dreams moment with my old man, and thankfully he's still here, not on the other side of the cornfield to enjoy that. But I got to say that was one of my high points. But that was my brother in the booth with him at the moment.
Yeah, I just took a shot there, a 50-50 shot, man. He didn't specify which son it was. So, but he just has these great memories of things that happen in the booth, and it's cool that he's been an influence on you. So as you talk about athletes influencing other athletes and investors, you can just look as close to your own father as a guy who's helped influence you, huh?
Absolutely. So
yeah.
Watch my dad, do NFL and be the voice of the Big East and a whole bunch of things that, coming to the Mariners, couldn't be more excited. And I just feel the electricity. It's got to feel so weird right now being in that ballpark with no fans, and sometimes the team in another state. But, my dad's been a huge influence on my life, and I couldn't be more grateful.
That's cool. All right, Jarett, listen, man, we really appreciate the insight on Russell Wilson, and thanks for your time, and we appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me on.